The chief of the Bureau of Demon Management tells the people in the territory that there is a death territory on floor 4. However, they refuse to believe him due to the fact that they are of the opinion that the Bureau is trying to monopolize the level for themselves. And that really seems unfair to the others. They refuse to stay in their assigned place, and one of them claims that there is no death territory outside, and he will go there regardless, forcing the chief to inform them that it isn't the case that he is really stopping them from leaving, but they must know that if they leave, they will have to bear the consequences by themselves. And the consequence may not be easy, and it could include death. It's not the case that they all don't know what evil the death territory holds, and they are all aware of the risks. One of them looks irritated by all the warnings. He scorns the chief and claims the chief is only giving them such ridiculous warnings because the chief thinks he is scared of him, and he wants to prove that he isn't scared. As the silent crowd stands there thinking of what to do, he summons his courage and tells the chief that he will enter floor 4, and he doesn't think there is a death territory there. In fact, he admits to wanting to bear all the consequences that may come from his disobedience, claiming that he is not scared of the Bureau, and asks if they think he is scared of them. He asks them if they think he is a coward who they can scare away with annoying words that hold no water, and says that he isn't a coward. The chief doesn't know what more he can do to convince him, and he eventually resigns himself to fate. He announces to the other people standing in front of him and wanting to go to floor 4 that if they really want to go despite all of his warnings, then they are allowed to do what they wish as he will let them go. Upon hearing that there is a free door and they are free to leave, the others also try to contemplate leaving for floor 4 despite knowing the risk attached to it. They ask themselves if they should leave. They wonder if there is really a death territory anywhere because it doesn't look like it, and they doubt the chief's word as regards the death territory. The chief doesn't make an attempt to convince them. It seems that there is freedom of choice for anyone. The door is opened and they can all choose life or death. As they all think and try to make their decision, the first person who had proceeded to the death territory screams loudly, and the sound of his terror and the look of it is the confirmation they all need. They see him screaming like a baby held in a circle and trapped in it. It closes all the doubts the other members have, and they have no choice but to follow the advice of the chief. The first rebel runs back to the fold. He is injured in his eyes and screams, "Mutated! Mutated!" Well, that should be the punishment for the rebellions. And he is so scared that he jumps back to join the team. He returns to apologize. He bows down to the chief as he looks at him. He screams that the death territory is very scary and filled with mutated monsters. Upon seeing him, all the monsters go crazy and they start to chase after him. Fortunately, he has luck on his side that day, so he runs as fast as he can and tries to rejoin the team. If he didn't make such an attempt, he would have died as an example to the others who could have decided to do the same as he had done. The others who were doubting the chief's words get the confirmation they all need. They are shocked that all the monsters have really mutated. They scream that there is really a death territory out there, and the chief isn't lying to them. They trust and obey the chief without a doubt. It seems they all want to live after all. Trying to confirm their doubts about him, the chief asks them if any of them still have doubts about him. He asks if any of them still wants to leave as the door to leave isn't closed, so they can still leave. After confirming that they all trust him enough to follow his commands, he suggests that everyone should not log in, nor should they come to floor 4. All they have to do is wait for the demon territory to completely disappear. Then they can all come to the floor. It's not like he's trying to monopolize the floor to himself alone. They all conclude that since they can't log in for a few days, all they have to do is go offline and rest. They all open their tablets and they log out respectively. Rakshasa, who has mistakenly fallen among the crowds, looks in awe, thinking of what to do. He concludes that since it isn't too late, he can't go, so he has to join them and go back. He also opens his tablet and makes the decision of whether he should log out or not. He decides that since the following day is a Saturday and there is no school, he can also log out. Meanwhile, on another floor in the dungeon, a warrior fights the monsters which have approached him. The roars and the shouts of the monsters echo in his ears. The mutated monsters, who are now giants standing in front of his dwarf self, approach him. It's a decision of either life or death, so he also brings out his sword to fight. He uses his sword to cut off the monster's legs, and they both battle with the swords. He eventually uses his sword to hit his head, and the giant zombie dies. After the giant zombie dies, he sees a purple crystal in front of him, and he goes nearer to the crystal and picks it up. When he does that, he receives a message in his tablet. He taps his tablet to see the message he has. he sees a notification that a very dreadful human monster called the Death Kiss, which has an organization and is prominent for killing young warriors, has been successfully killed by Rakshasa. He thinks about Rakshasa, especially since Rakshasa is a young class warrior who has just awakened. He comments that Rakshasa is a very interesting guy. He just can't seem to predict his strength and skills. He looks at the monster he has killed on the floor, and he sees that the monster is the SS floor boss. He continues his journey on the floor, hoping to kill as many monsters as he finds on that floor. The floor is now in ruins, with all the buildings broken and the street tattered. On the other hand, Zhang Zi is in his home. And at home, he serves his younger sister, Zhao Feng, with food on their table. He advises her to stay with him and do her homework while he goes out for a while. He is jobless and he is looking for work that will assist him in maintaining their homes. So his aim that morning is to go out and get a job. He tries to explain to Zhao Feng that their friend, Zhang Panpan, says that her cousin has a job, and she thinks that he is a very good fit for that job, so he's going to check the job out. Zhao Feng tries to figure out what he is saying with her loaf of bread in her hands. She repeats his statement and asks him if he is really trying to get a job from Zhang Panpan's cousin. She tells him that she has heard a strange rumor that the work Zhang Panpan's cousin does is quite dangerous and risky. He reassures her that he's going to be fine, asking her to stop worrying about him and telling her that she should know at that point that her big brother is very strong. So all she has to do for him is just stay home and take care of herself. He will go and come back to her in an instant. After saying this, he attempts to leave the house and find Zhang Panpan at their designated meeting point. Before he goes, she tells him that he should be fine and that he should take care of himself. He goes to the ruins where he has planned to meet Zhang Panpan, and to his uttermost shock, it doesn't look like there is anyone or anything hanging out in that location. He scratches his head in confusion and he takes his phone, trying to confirm if that's the location he is meant to meet her. After checking his phone's location, he confirms that the location is correct, and it's not as if he's lost his way, but he just can't find Zhang Panpan. He wonders where she is, and he just stands there wondering. Just as he thinks of what to do, Zhang Panpan calls out for him and tells him to come over. She is dressed in a school dress with a tie, and she waves to him, calling him to come closer to her so she can take him there. He goes nearer to her, and she takes him to a secret warehouse. She tells him to come inside, and her cousin is inside. As he peeps inside the place, he says the place seems to have been abandoned for a long time, and reluctantly he enters the building, and he sees about 4 men trying to strategize for their next plan. He joins them with Zhang Panpan, and she calls out for her brother, telling him that she has brought the person she told him she would bring, and Zhang Zi is the person she had recommended for him. She also introduces Zhang Zi to her cousin Lu Kai. They all look at each other, and Lu Kai breaks the silence. He tells Zhang Zi that he has heard from his sister that she is quite skilled, and he is very strong, but he lacks money. He stretches his hand outside to greet Zhang Zi, and he asks Zhang Zi if he has any interest in joining his team. Since Zhang Zi needs the money and they have the money he needs, joining the team seems to be the smart thing to do. He is, however, scared about what they do since he doesn't know what they do. He tells Lu Kai that he really needs to find a job, but he doesn't know what job they do. They announce to him that their job is to go to the Fallen Zone. They are going to the ruins of the war where the monster is. Zhang Zi is scared. His words echo in his head as he asks Lu Kai for the second time to be sure he really means it. They all know how scary the Falling Zone is. It's a no-go area, and the government has also blocked it for everyone who isn't a warrior. Lu Kai explains further. He tells Zhang Zi that he should know that recently, the Devil's Territory's monsters invaded, and they had destroyed several cities. These cities have fallen. However, former occupants of the city, some of which are dead or have escaped, have several pieces of jewelry, antiques, paintings, and other expensive things. So the Fallen Zones have not only monsters, but also several treasures, like jewelry, antiques, paintings, and so much more. And some very wealthy people are interested in those valuable things, and they want to put them in their collection, so they need people like them to get it for them. He tells Zhang Zi that the job is very dangerous, and that they will encounter several monsters. Not only that, but the National Security Bureau has also prohibited normal people who do not have powers from entering the fallen area. So in a nutshell, what they're planning to do is illegal, but they need the money just like him. So they're doing it for the money, and they do not care about how dangerous the job is. The gang asks him to join them to make money since he clearly needs the money. Another member of the team, Fang Zi, tries to sell the mission to him. He tells him that if he follows them, he will get 300,000 per trip, since each trip is about 300,000 for each of them. He asks Zhang Zi what he thinks about the price, wondering if he wants to join them. He uses his hands to signify how sweet the tip is, and sincerely, no one should be able to let go of such privileges, especially someone like Zhang Zi with a sister that he has to take care of. He thinks about his options and declares that 300,000 is sincerely not a small amount. He needs the money, and his little sister cannot wait any longer. So he has to make a choice irrespective of what he believes in. His sister has a kidney problem, and he believes that he needs that money. Throughout the period of the monster's invasion, he has been hunting, and he has been earning money by selling magic soul orb, which he had gotten with his skills. A sister, Sister Jiang, had also given him 500,000, and right now he has a total of 800,000. So if he gets that 300,000, he will have more than enough to help with his sister's kidney treatment charges. He decides to join them considering the need he has for money, and it seems like a good deal to him. As he accepts to join them, Lu Kai comes closer to him to hug him. He calls him a good lad and comments that he is really brave for agreeing to join them. He tells him that there is more news he needs to hear, and with this particular mission, the danger is extremely high, and their reward if they can successfully go on that trip has been doubled. So their reward for that mission is 3 million. The other colleagues scream. They are excited about the price. It means that if they divide their 3 million into 5 equal parts, all of them will get a lump sum of 600,000 each. While the others are really excited about the money, Zhang Zi knows the higher the money, the higher the risk. And double money means that they will be looking for something very risky. He asks Lu Kai what exactly they're looking for. In response, they tell him that they're going to look for a painting from the 5th dynasty period, and their location is the Jiangdong Museum. Their mission is the following day, and they must meet by 4 a.m. They advise him not to be late. He returns home to prepare, and the following day, as he wakes up, he sees that his sister Xiaofeng is awake. He asks her why she is awake that early, as it is unlike her, and he asks her if her health is okay. He sees her preparing their breakfast, and she holds a plate of food in her hand. She tells him that her health isn't an issue, and she knows he's going to work very early that day, so she decided to wake up early too and make breakfast for him. He looks at the table that has been prepared before him, and he sees an apple. He asks her where the apple came from, since he knows that they do not have them at home, so she tells him that she got the apple from their new next-door neighbor. It was a gift. She also comments that their next-door neighbor is a kind uncle. Zhang Zi is shocked. They are in a period of scarcity, and everything is scarce. There is a great lack of resources, and the lack is greater with fresh vegetables and fruits. So the least amount a person can pay for 2 fresh apples will not be less than a few $100s. He eats his bread and tells his sister that the neighbor is really generous. He tells Xiaofeng that she can actually eat the apple, but she should remember his instruction that she shouldn't accept gifts from strangers casually. He tells her he will be leaving for work. She tells him that she remembers his instructions and she will be careful. As he walks to the location, she comments about the danger of the operation. He says that he knows the operation is dangerous, so before he slept the night before, he absorbed all the magic soul orb he can so he can get more energy. It turns out he is Rakshasa. He looks into his strength. He has 110 HP, he has 120 vitality, and his damage level is about 4-14. He has a 15 speed level, and his attributes include strength. He has a 14 strength level, which is much more than that of normal people, as the strength level of normal people is 10. His physique is 11, and again that is more than that of normal people, as the normal level is 10. For his mind, he has 12, and the normal level is also 10. For agility, he has 15, which is 5 levels more than that of normal people. He also has undistributed attribute points, and his skills are Summon Technique level 1, and he is of the SSS rank. He has 0 experience, and he is a newbie adventurer. He sees he has 14 strengths, and sincerely, he hasn't tested his fist. He thinks his fist is at least 1,000 kg. He looks at his agility and wonders if he is able to fight a monster if he encounters a monster. He concludes that he hopes everything goes smoothly, and he hopes he won't encounter any monster or anything that is too much for him to fight. He gets to the city wall and he looks out for his new team members. As he searches for them, they call out for him, telling him that they are around the corner. As he goes to meet them, Lu Kai welcomes him by giving him a dead chicken. He tells him to take it and use it in a time of emergency. He collects it and holds it, although he wonders what it can be used for. He asks Lu Kai what it is used for, and Lu Kai tells him that monsters like to eat corpses. So if the monsters are chasing after him, then he can throw the dead chicken at them. And run away. He now knows what it is used for, and he puts it inside his bag. The others call him to come quickly and tell him to stop wasting time. He tells them that he is coming soon and he runs to join them. They are to get to the other side of the falling city by climbing a rope, and he runs there to climb the rope to his destination. He climbs to the other side, and when he gets to the top of the fence, he sees something much more than what he has expected. What a scene! Monsters running around, some flying, some crawling. He sincerely doesn't need a person to tell him they are really in a death zone. Looking at the situation they are in, he comments, "What a scene!" Liu Kai assumes he is very weak and he isn't a good fit for that job. He tells him that he knows he is Pan Pan's friend and he doesn't wish for anything bad to happen to him. So he wants him to stay by his side, listen to his instruction, and if he does all those things, he can assure him that he will get back home alive. Despite knowing their strength, Zhang Zi says okay and implies that he will follow those instructions. The others try to hurry them up. They tell them that they don't have enough time for anything unnecessary and they should hurry up. The 5 of them walk into the ruins in hopes of safety. One of them, who thinks Zhang Zi is a burden and he's just a child who doesn't have the ability to be in the battlefield, voices his concerns. He tells Liu Kai that after they are done with that mission, he should find a way to let Zhang Zi return back to his normal life, and he shouldn't follow them to the missions again. He claims it is inconvenient to bring along a burden. He assumes that Zhang Zi is a burden. Liu Kai, who also thinks he has made the wrong decision, believes his colleague's words and tells him he is also thinking the same. They eventually get to the center of the fallen city. Liu Kai announces that they have arrived, but to their shock and contrary to what they had planned, they realize that the place doesn't have an entrance. They try to find the door out of the ruins, and they all look around to find the door of the museum. And Liu Kai asks if Fang Zi has found it. After a thorough search, one of them eventually finds the door to the museum, and he calls Liu Kai's attention to it. And in return, Liu Kai calls Lao Ba. During most of their several missions, the first person to work was Lao Ba. He was the one with the most strength and could break anything. So Fang Zi calls Lao Ba. Lao Ba clenches his hands together with the aim of destroying the stones around the entrance, so they can all gain entrance into the museum. He uses his hard fist to hit the rocks so the rocks will break. As he does so, the stones scatter around and it brings a mighty effect. He eventually creates a route for them to enter the museum. Liu Kai is proud of Lao Ba's strength, and he brags to Zhang Zi, telling him that Lao Ba is the strongest among them, and he has a strength point of 12 strength. They do not know that Zhang Zi's strength points are much more than that. Zhang Zi looks at them in awe. He thinks to himself that 12 strength is lower than his own. They all enter the museum. As they enter, Liu Kai announces to them that monsters love to hide in dark corners. And since the inside of that house is dark, there may be monsters inside of it, so they should all be extremely careful so they wouldn't fall prey to any monster. They all walk into the museum and they tiptoe around the place, trying to look for the painting they're seeking. They walk inside and they find a door. They go nearer to it and they open it. As they get to the door they are about to enter, Liu Kai points his light inside the door to be sure it's safe, and that's where they are going. He confirms that the door is safe. He tells them that this is the exhibition main hall, and that's where they will search for what they need. So everyone in the team should split up, and they should find the portrait. However, they should all be careful. Following his own orders, he also enters, and he points his light toward all the paintings in that room to be sure of the exact painting he needs. He looks at a painting to confirm and sees that the painting depicts people boating on a lake in spring. He looks at the title of the painting. It says boating on a lake in spring, and he contemplates if that is what he is looking for or not. Also, the other members of his gang search around the museum for the same reason. Another member of his team sees another painting titled A Gift to a Prince. He calls Liu Kai's attention to it, telling him he has found a painting on a gift to a prince, and asks him if that's the painting they are looking for. Liu Kai brings out his phone, and while still pointing his flash at one of the paintings, he uses the phone to check the picture of what his boss has given to him as the targeted painting. And he looks at the other paintings to see if it is indeed the same as the one he is looking for. He sees a painting that is familiar to the one on his phone. He grins with delight and he tells his colleagues that this is the painting they are looking for, and he has found it. After finding what one has been searching for, the next step is no doubt to carry it. So one of the members of the team goes nearer to the painting and instantly carries it. The mission seems so simple. Liu Kai takes the painting, rolls it up tightly, and puts it into a bag he is carrying. He turns to his colleagues and one of them says that the mission is a great success. Not only is the mission a success, but the mission is also very simple. Plus, they got an extra payment for that mission. Little do they know what is ahead of them. One of them says once he receives the money, he will visit the Yunding Club and play with some girls in the club. It seems like a fitting reaction to getting some free cash. They all stand around Lu Kai as he gently puts the painting in his bag. At that point, Zhongzi looks around and sees that they are just 4. He remembers that they were 5 when they entered the museum, and he figures they are missing someone. He calls their attention to it, telling them they are missing someone, and the others also notice. Fang Zi notices that a colleague of theirs, Steele, is missing. He instantly asks the others where they think Steele is. Lu Kai calls out for Steele, and he even goes the extra mile and calls his number, hoping that Steele will reply or respond to the calls. But all their efforts are in vain. Lao Ba wonders if it is possible for a whole human, like an adult, to suddenly disappear from their presence. Well, even if it's not possible, it seems it's happening now, and they all have to find Steele as they won't be able to leave there without him. However, despite the fact that their colleague is missing, Lu Kai feels that they should leave, and he tells them they can't wait there, hoping and praying for Steele to come out, because it's quite dangerous to stay there. He decides that it is more preferable that they leave a message for Steele in case he comes back, but for their own safety, it's better that they leave that place first. Following the command of their boss, they all turn to leave, but it seems it's too late, as they all see a monster with shining red eyes looking at them from the roof of the museum. Their successful mission turns into a dangerous one, and it becomes the survival of the fittest from that point forward. They all turn their attention to the monster on the roof. As human survival impulse strikes, they all run in the opposite direction, hoping to survive what's coming to them. Do you think they will survive? As they run, Zhongzi notices a sound. He turns a little, looking backward and wondering what the noise he hears is about. Suddenly, they all hear a sound. Behind them is calamity already as dust flies up. As they turn, they see the monster which has jumped down from the roof of the museum and has attacked them. Sadly and in fear, Lu Kai announces that they have eventually encountered a monster, despite how they tried to avoid it. Zhongzi looks at the monster and wonders what it is exactly. With great strength, the monster steps down, and his foot sounds like thunder. It looks so horrible and has multiple sharp teeth and 3 eyes all shining at them. They realize it's a second-level monster from the Devil's Cafe. The monster approaches them, and they're all terribly scared. Lao Ba, mindful of his great strength, reassures his colleagues that he can deal with the monster alone, and he tells them to go first, and he will deal with the monster and come afterward. He jumps as high as he can, and he attempts to hit the monster with his sword in his hands. He jumps toward the monster's face and stretches the sword forward to kill the monster with it. To his shock, the monster breaks the sword without much stress. He gets terrified, and he figures he has gotten more than he bargained for, and he is so scared. The monster's face turns red in anger. He is angry about the confrontation. Lao Ba stands in front of him with the handle of the broken sword in his hands. He throws the broken sword away, and he decides to fight with his hands. He clenches his 2 hands together, preparing to deliver a killing attack. Unfortunately, his killing attack can't even deliver a kill, as the monster shifts back to dodge it, and his velocity lifts plumes of dust again. The other members of the team look in awe. They all open their mouths in shock, considering how strong that monster turns out to be. Lu Kai tells them that the monster's skin is too thick. The monster delivers just 1 hit at Lao Ba, and Lao Ba collapses while the monster is still standing at his full strength. The others are looking at Lao Ba like he is nearly dead, and he is in reality severely injured. He goes to reassure his team that he is fine. He only broke his hands, as if that was not enough reason to be concerned. Their strongest fighter has broken his hands, and they are in the presence of a terrible level 2 monster with no hopes of escaping. Zhongzi looks at the scenario in front of them. He instantly concludes that the monster is terrifying. I have an issue with the fact that he's just becoming aware of that established fact. He says that Lao Ba, who weighs more than 200, was pushed into the air with just 1 punch from the monster. The monster roars in front of them, revealing all of their weapons and teeth. He also clenches his hands together to fight. The team stands in front of him, not knowing what to do. In fact, probably they are standing thinking of their death day. They are scared, and it's written on their faces. Zhongzi remembers the dead chicken that Lu Kai has given him. He brings out the dead chicken, considering that it is their last resort, and they do not have any other choice. He takes it and throws it at the monster, and fortunately, that throws the monster off balance, and he falls down immediately. As the monster falls, Lu Kai yells to his team to run. Well, that's a known fact, as it's a survival instinct. Just before they run as far as they can to leave that building, the monster gets its composure back, and this time he is much more angry about the dead chicken they had thrown at him, so he is furious. He goes right after them to destroy them. He runs after them as they all increase their velocity too. Feng is holding Lao Ba, who has gotten injured during the fight, and Lu Kai and Zhang Zi are running in front of them. Lu Kai gets to the door first. That's funny, considering that a leader should ensure his followers are fine first, but I guess his survival instinct kicked in faster. As Zhang Zi almost reaches the door too, he looks back. He sees that the monster is just an inch behind Feng and Lao Ba, and if he runs outside of that building too, they will no doubt lose Feng and Lao Ba. Realizing that he has no other choice, Feng comments shit and tells his master that they should leave first, while he stays behind and goes all out with the monster. He brings out fire from his hands, hoping to fight. He sends his fireballs at the monster, but the monster blocks it with several parts of his body. Lao Ba refuses to run away like a coward. He stays behind, encouraging Feng that his comrades, even if they die, they will die fighting together. He stays behind Feng as Feng uses his fireball at the monster. He stands there holding a bomb in his hands and preparing to attack the monster too. He tells Lu Kai to leave as he throws the bomb. He throws the bomb right into the stomach of the monster, and it has a great effect on the monster. The monster explodes, and Lu Kai and Zhang Zi see the fire behind them. Zhang Zi comments that they are madmen, as he doesn't understand why someone will sacrifice himself. Instead of wasting time to feel hurt by the death of his colleagues, Lu Kai encourages Zhang Zi that they should spare their feelings for the moment, and the first thing they should do is get out of that place first. Lu Kai holds Zhang Zi by his hands and drags him further. He reassures him that as long as they leave that tunnel, they should be safe. They both try to climb a pile of stones that is in their way. They eventually get to the door, and as Lu Kai looks outside, he sees another terrifying thing, and he screams, "What is that?" His eyes light up, signifying they see more trouble. To their shock, they see the same monster they had encountered inside the museum waiting for them outside the museum. I'm sure the first thought that will be in their mind at that moment is whether that monster is the same one they encountered before or if it's another one. They stand in front of the monster, not knowing what to do. As though that is not enough worry for them, as they look around, they see several other monsters walking towards them. They're in a dilemma. They can't go back to the museum, and outside the museum is another terror. They look at the fence of the falling city. At least if they can get that far, they will survive these calamities. But will they get that far? The two survivors of the terrible mission stand in the middle of the several second-level monsters. All the monsters make an attempt to go towards them, and they walk closer. Lu Kai, like the leader that he is, and considering that Zhang Zi is a friend to his cousin, tells Zhang Zi that the treasure they had come for is in the bag, so he should take the bag and he should leave. He tells Zhang Zi that he is putting his cousin into Zhang Zi's care from that moment henceforth. That looks like a farewell message, and it is necessary because he also doesn't think he will survive the terrors in front of him. Instead of accepting the idea of leaving, Zhang Zi shockingly refuses. He tells Lu Kai that if he leaves the fallen city, then they will be leaving together. At least he knows he is strong. He just doesn't know how strong he is, and if he is strong enough to conquer those monsters. They are outnumbered by the monsters, and it's suicide to think of fighting them. Lu Kai screams out loud as he prepares to fight for his life. He pulls out a gun and points it at the monsters to kill them. He sends the first set of bullets at the monsters, but it doesn't look like they are affected by the gun. He keeps firing the gun at them, calling them beasts and telling them to die and let them live. It's not by mouth, but by strength, so the monsters do not die. After receiving several angry fire bullets, the monster gets angry and prepares to attack. Lu Kai increases his speed, runs, and jumps on the monster's body speedily, and shoots him again, and the monster grunts in pain, and Lu Kai jumps down. Lu Kai refuses to back down. He increases his strength, jumps at the monster again, and he brings out the bomb that he has with him. He angrily throws the bomb at the monster with the last hope that it will destroy the monster. As the fire explodes, he turns his back and runs away so he will survive the burning fire. He breathes in relief that he's eventually destroyed one of the monsters, and he stands nonchalantly, not knowing that there is another monster right behind him waiting to attack him. The monster prepares his sharp claws to make his attack, and fortunately, Zhang Zi notices that the monster is behind him, and he calls Lu Kai's attention to the monster, telling him to watch out. Lu Kai immediately turns his back, and he sees the monster. He is shocked. He is tired, he is afraid, he is terrified. His face shows several messages. He doesn't know what more to do. And at that point, it seems like it is game over for him and Zhang Zi. He jumps away from the monster and staggers to the back. He falls on his back after the monster hits him for the first time. He tries to summon his strength and courage back, hoping to fight more, so he sits on the floor to prepare. "Damn it!" he exclaims. At that point, he knows the reality he is in. The monster is coming closer to him, and he is on the ground with not much strength to stand up and fight again. He acknowledges in his mind that he will die, but asks the question to remind himself of his doubts about death. The monster is ready to attack and kill Lu Kai, who looks at him from far off, and he resigns himself to his fate. Suddenly, Zongzi, the same Zongzi who has been concealing his strength, decides to turn up. He sees that Lu Kai will die, and he also decides to fight. He stands up and clenches his fists together to fight. Considering the level of his strength, which is much more than that of a normal human, you can be assured of the injury he will inflict on the monster. Just before the monster hits Lu Kai, Zongzi hits him. The flow of his strength, the power of his energy, and all of his manpower make the blow as heavy as that of a sword. The monster flies off immediately. Lu Kai, who is on the ground, is shocked. He never in his life could have expected that Zongzi, who he has thought will be a burden to him, is actually that strong. As Zongzi prepares to face the monster, Lu Kai looks at him in awe from behind, giving the vibe of, "Who the hell is this strong little kid?" Upon realizing that his death day has been shifted forward, Lu Kai calls the monster a bastard, and Zongzi forges ahead to hit the monster, who is already scared of him and his strength. He hits the monster with his fist, and it gives the effect of monstrous thunder. The monster falls off his back. Lu Kai is shocked. He comments that Zongzi is actually that strong. He says that just a hit from Zongzi sends the monster flying into the sky, and that's incredible. Even the monster is shocked. The boy looks so little, and no one could have assumed that he had that much strength. Zongzi remains humble about his strength. He tells Lu Kai that hitting a monster isn't a big issue, but he just thinks he is not suited to face monsters with that much force on his own. He holds his hands, showing that he is also shocked that he could inflict that much injury. He tells Lu Kai, who is also reassured that they will survive, that there are too many monsters there, and if all the monsters come at them at once, there is little or no chance that they will survive at all. And he is not wrong. Irrespective of his fear, Lu Kai tells him not to worry. He tells him that the monsters are from the Devil's Cave, and monsters from the Devil's Cave have a distinct characteristic, which is that they don't snatch each other's prey, meaning that they do not come at their prey together. And unless the monster they are fighting at that moment gives up, the others won't attack them, let alone attack them together. The monster which has targeted them looks at them, and he prepares to fight again. Zongzi prepares his fist and stands in front of the monster, telling Lu Kai that if his conclusion is true, then he feels much at ease. The monster comes at Zongzi again, and Zongzi, who is now proud of his strength, comments that he may be strong, but he should ask himself if he is indeed fast enough to attack him. Just as the monster attempts to come nearer, Zongzi hits him again in the abdomen. The hit sends the monster flying again. Without taking a rest or break, Zongzi prepares to inflict his next injury on the monster. He hits him terribly, telling him to die. The hit is ferocious and the monster collapses. After he hits the monster with his first strike, Lu Kai tells him he has done a good job and that the strike is very beautiful. He appreciates Zongzi's strength. At least that's the only reason he is still alive at the moment. The monster refuses to die. He is there and ready to fight more, and neither is he ready to give up on that fight. He stands up again and attempts to hit Zongzi, who is standing in front of him and anticipating his attack. The monster walks nearer to Zongzi and gives him a terrible hit. Zongzi, who has figured out his moves, quickly takes a step backward to dodge the hit, and he survives. Upon getting back to a comfort zone, he thinks of his strategy. He says that the hit which the monster had used just now is an extremely risky move, but the good thing is he had also figured out the move beforehand, and he had dodged it. He says that the good thing is that he is also quick enough. After that hit, the monster dies and gives up the fight. After killing the first monster, Zongzi breathes a breath of relief and comments that one of the monsters is down, and there are still 3 monsters left for him to fight. The thing about the Devil's Cave monster is that they will come at him one by one, and it will make it easier for him to defeat them without much effort. He comments that he must defeat all the monsters that day, no matter how long it takes him or what it takes. After killing the first monster, his confidence doubles up, and he feels much more proud of his strength and energy. He prepares to fight, and suddenly the 3 monsters run toward him. He stops to think of what is going on, and he sees a boot coming toward them. The body and the person in the knight's armor looks like a female, and a lady appears to him. She jumps right in front of him, and she jumps to attack the monster without thinking of the risk attached to it. He looks at her in awe as she disappears from his front in a flash. She swings her sword without stress, and she hits the monsters all together. She looks so strong and courageous, and she fights with all of her might. In split seconds, she attacks the monsters, and their red crystals fly around after most of them secure severe injuries. The monsters themselves look very terrified. They scream, and their eyes light up, considering the risk in front of them. She stands in front of one of the monsters courageously, with her long red hair flying behind her. The monster attempts to attack her, but she swings away and dodges the attack. She angrily uses one of her techniques, and she swings her legs at the monster. She gives the monster a critical hit, and the monster is humbled and injured. She jumps down and rests on one of her knees with one of her hands on the floor, and the other flying in the sky as the monster eventually collapses and dies. After watching the superb display of pure power and strength, Zhongzi stands there. He is shocked. He has never seen such strength before. He comments that the woman is so powerful, and that the kick she delivered that caused the critical hit must have been more than 2,000 carries, which is equal to around 2,646 pounds or 1,200 kilograms. After killing the monsters in front of him, the lady comes to him. She calls him Kid. He stands beside her fearfully. He looks at her, but he stammers, and he doesn't know what to say. He says the word you, but he doesn't know what to say to conclude his words. He looks around and he sees that she has come in her car. She is standing right there beside her car, while he and Lu Kai are behind her. She tells him to hurry up and get into the car with Lu Kai as some monsters are coming to her to fight her, and she is getting ready to destroy them. At that point, he doesn't have to pretend that he has superpowers or is stronger than he really is. He doesn't argue with her. He just tells her, all right. He goes to carry Lu Kai, who is incapacitated, and he tells Lu Kai to get into the car. The rider in the car, which has arrived with the young girl, calls the lady. He calls her his captain, and he tells her that another cluster of monsters is coming and she should join them in the car before it's too late. The monsters forge at the young lady. She runs to the car so she can escape with the others before they come nearer. She successfully enters the car and tells the driver to go before the monsters get nearer. The driver gears up the car and he puts it at high speed considering that monsters are around them. The car takes off in a flash. The car drives away and they eventually outspeed the monsters who can't keep up with the car, but they keep chasing them with the aim of keeping up. The soldier driving the car tells his captain that if they lead such a big cluster of monsters to the city wall, then it will be very bad if they invade Tianfang City. Zhongzi keeps looking at the back to see how far or how near the monsters are to them. So the captain tells him to stop watching. He turns to her, asking her what she had said. So she tells him that if he doesn't want to die, then he should help out. She tells him to get up and get to work because she doesn't want to feel like she has saved him in vain. She brings out a bag and shows him the content of it. He doesn't know what the bag contains and asks her what's in the bag, and she tells him the bag contains flashbangs. She tells him to throw all the flashbangs behind them and scare away those monsters. He is scared, but he has to do it regardless. So he turns to the back and sees all the fearful monsters behind them, and he stands in the open space in the car with the captain, and they both throw the flashbangs at the monsters. They keep throwing until they scare off the monsters, and they eventually drive out of the fallen city and come out through the fence. He is scared and tired as he stands there with her. The monsters are still after them despite being out of the fence. They both pick up more pieces of the flashbangs and they throw them at the monsters respectively. The flashbang hits one of the monsters and it explodes. The monsters surrender and they stop the chase as the car eventually zooms off. After the calamity has eventually stopped and everything has become peaceful, Zhongzi now has the strength to think of the woman that saved him. So many questions are running through his mind. He wonders who the woman is, why she saved him, and how she has so many weapons and supplies to counter the monsters. As everything becomes calm, the captain decides to inquire about what Zhongzi and Lu Kai are doing in the fallen city. She asks them what in the world they did do, and how they were able to attract so many monsters from the Devil's Cave. Lu Kai quickly chips in with a formulated answer which is obviously a lie. He tells them that they didn't do anything, and they just wanted to return home to pay respect to their late family members who had died, and they didn't expect that they would encounter so many monsters from the Devil's Cave. It makes his lie so much more presentable. He appreciates them for saving him and calls Zhongzi his younger brother. So he thanks them for saving him and his younger brother. The captain deliberates about what he has said. She concentrates her questions on Zhongzi, asking him what his name is. And says that back then when he was fighting the monster, he was very brave and agile, which is a very admirable quality. He tells her his name is Zhongzi, and she tells him to listen carefully to her. She tells him that in the future he should not for any reason go to the enemy-occupied zone. She says it is extremely likely that he will lose his life in doing so, and the only reason he may not die is if he becomes a magic domain fighter. He accepts the advice, and he says in his mind that although he doesn't know the lady and she has a mysterious identity, it seems that she doesn't have vile intentions towards them. She tells them that the city wall is right in front of them, and if any one of them is injured, they should quickly get treatment from the hospital as they will be leaving them there. They appreciate them, but they still have questions in their minds about them, especially the question of who they are. They come down from the car, and Zhongzi helps Lu Kai to walk. He asks Lu Kai as they walk away if he knows who they are, but Lu Kai says he isn't sure. He says they appear to be magic domain fights, and if they are not, they wouldn't have defeated those monsters from the Devil's Cave so easily. He continues and tells him that it's too bad that his backpack was torn by those monsters, and they have lost the scroll too. This means there is no money for them and their mission is useless. Lu Kai tells him it is fate in order to calm him down. He tells Zhongzi to let it be. At least they are able to return alive and they didn't lose their lives. So that's enough to be grateful for. Later that day, Zhongzi walks away, saying that the day was so risky and torturous. He looks at his phone and comments that if the woman hadn't appeared to save them, then they would have died in the fallen city too. He says it was a pity that the scroll which they had gone for was lost, and they had come back empty-handed. He walks on the stairs and mistakenly hits a man with a face mask and a cap coming towards him. He apologizes to the man and continues walking. As he walks, he figures that the person's physique is so familiar, and the man also readjusts his cap as he walks away. Zhongzi stops and looks at the man again. He imagines who the man could have been and thinks that it must have been Steele. He wonders if it could be him, and comments that he suddenly disappeared from the ruins, and shockingly, he is there now. He feels like intruding, and he decides that he will like to see where he is going, so he follows the random man who he thinks looks like Steele. As the man walks away from the stairs, he goes to the other side of the street and he starts running. Zhongzi hides by the houses behind him and looks at him. When the coast is clear, he follows the man again, and he follows him until they cross the road. He hides from him to ensure the man doesn't figure that he's being followed. And he watches as the man calls a person. The man calls the person his boss, and Zhongzi realizes the man is Steele, and he is most likely the one behind all of their attacks. Steele tells the boss that he is at their designated hideout and claims that he isn't being followed. Little does he know that Zhongzi is behind him. Two huge men come to meet him. They welcome him and ask him if he has brought what they want. Steele brings out a pack behind his back and shows the men, telling them that he brought what he had promised them to bring. Just as he gives it to them, he asks them for the money they had also promised him. And they give him the bag with the money, and they also reassure him that he won't find a penny missing from the money they had promised him. It seems like a contract which had been negotiated even before the trip, and Steele had risked the lives of all the colleagues just so he could steal from them and take their gains. One of the men tells him he likes him and says that Steele is vicious and merciless. The man says that he will take the $3 million alone for himself. Steele had turned his back on the brothers he had worked with for more than 10 years, which shows how much of a ruthless person he is. Zhongzi watches the whole conversation and sees everything. He is furious considering how they had all risked their lives for that painting. He calls Steele a bastard even though he doesn't leave his hiding place. The man opens the painting and sees it's exactly what he is looking for. After he confirms it, he tells his assistant to open the box of money. They show Steele the $3 million he has been promised. Steele drags the box of money from the man and turns his back on them, telling them that to survive, one must be ruthless. Well, it seems there is not much life for a betrayal, as a person who betrays must be betrayed. The man brings out his gun when Steele's back is turned. He cocks it and attempts to kill Steele. He points the gun right at Steele's head. When Steele turns, he sees the situation has turned against him. He confronts the man, asking him what is the meaning of what he is doing. The boss takes out a cigarette and smokes it as his assistant shoots his gun and kills Steele. After Steele dies, the boss repeats Steele's last words that to survive, one must be ruthless. He says the statement was well said, however, he is more ruthless than Steele, and he absolutely despises vile people like Steele. He turns to walk away with his assistant, leaving Steele in the pool of his own blood on the floor. Zhongzi keeps watching all that is happening, and he is shocked that they just killed him with a gun to his head. He wonders who the boss, Boss Lee, is, and thinks of what he should do next. Should he just leave first? He eventually leaves and goes home to meet his younger sister, who is scared and anxious that he hasn't been home. She opens the door at about the same time when he's running home. and she welcomes him cheerfully and with an open smile, asking him how he is and how was the work he went to do. He tells her that she shouldn't even mention how his day was, as the day was so much for him that he can't say. He tells her it is a long story and they should go inside the house first. At about that time, the new neighbor comes out of the house, and his sister calls out for the man, calling him uncle. He turns to look at the man, asking her if that is the new uncle who sent them the apples. The man turns to greet him. He says he must be Zhang Feng's brother, and when Zhang Zhe looks at the man, his scar looks exactly like the one that was on Boss Li's bodyguard. He covers his thoughts with a great smile and he greets the man. He appreciates him for giving Feng apples. The man tells him it's no problem and they are neighbors, so they have to look out for each other. The man stretches his hand towards him, and before he receives the handshake, Feng jumps into the conversation, asking the man if he will join them for dinner that night. Zhang Zi stops her immediately. He apologizes to the man, telling him that he is too tired that day and they can find another time to have a meal together, then tells him they will be going inside the house. Before entering the house, Feng still cheerfully tells the man to try to eat with him whenever he is free. Zhang Zi drags her inside the house and angrily closes the door with a huge slam. The man wonders what has happened and he stays in front of his door thinking. He wonders what could have gone wrong during his conversation with Zhang Zi for him to react that way. Inside the house, Feng tells her brother that she will start preparing dinner, but Zhang Zi is lost in thought. He wonders how his new neighbor would have the same scar as the bodyguard who killed Steele. He keeps thinking and tells Feng that he will be stepping out of the house for a bit. She asks him where he's going, considering that he had just returned home a few minutes ago. He tells her to remain home and that she shouldn't step out of the house at all. He claims he has to be certain about who their neighbor is, otherwise he and his sister would be in danger. He attempts to leave the house, and so the neighbor won't know he is out of the house, he jumps through the window and gets down. He walks through the balcony and goes toward the window of his neighbor's house. As he is about to enter, he finds that his neighbor has sprinkled white ashes on his balcony. That way, if anyone tries to break into his house, he will know through the signs it will show on the ashes. Fortunately for Zhang Zi, his agility is at 15 points, so it will be easy for him to avoid such a trap. He jumps through the white ashes and eventually gets to his window. He thinks about the man and concludes that an ordinary person wouldn't set up something like that if he doesn't have anything he is hiding. He jumps into the man's bedroom and he sees the bed. He figures his house has minimalistic decoration, and he even sprinkles white ashes on his balcony. He concludes that his new neighbor is definitely not your average neighbor. While searching through the house, he sees a box, and his inquisitiveness causes him to bring out the box and open it. In the box, he sees several papers. Upon reading through the paper, he sees it is a Magic Domain Fighter's Certificate of Authenticity. The certification reads as follows: Hang Hanfei, congratulations on passing the first order of the Magic Domain Fighter evaluation. This certificate is hereby issued. He figures the man is really Boss Li's bodyguard, and he is just pretending to be a nice uncle, and he has rented an apartment next door to his home. He looks at the certificate and wonders what the man is planning. He sits comfortably, forgetting that he is actually breaking into someone else's house. Suddenly, the man returns, and he enters into the house through the door, and he screams that Zhang Zi should come out.
Huang Hanfei suspected that Zhang Jie was in his room, so he opened the door and told Zhang Jie to come out by himself. Zhang Jie talked to himself, hoping that Huang Hanfei wouldn't discover him, because if he were exposed, he would have to fight with all of his might. Huang Hanfei told Zhang Jie to stop hiding and come out. Zhang Jie realized that he had been discovered even though he was hiding, and said it was very unexpected to be discovered by Huang Hanfei, because he was an expert from the demon territory. Zhang Jie's wristwatch made a sound, and he checked the time. Realizing it was 8 o'clock, Huang Hanfei heard the sound of Zhang Jie's wristwatch and told Zhang Jie that he had found him. Without hesitation, Huang Hanfei pointed his gun at Zhang Jie and shot. Fortunately, Zhang Jie's wristwatch made some electric sparks and Zhang Jie disappeared. Huang Hanfei made his way closer to where he had seen Zhang Jie and realized that Zhang Jie had disappeared. He found the bullet he had shot at Zhang Jie, picked it up, and talked to himself that the demon territory opens at 8 o'clock. He concluded that Zhang Jie had gone to the demon territory. Huang Hanfei told himself that he would wait for Zhang Jie to come back and threw the bullet away. Meanwhile, in the demon territory, Zhang Jie was worried that he had been discovered and wondered if Huang Hanfei was waiting for him to return to his bed. He was also concerned that he couldn't keep staying in the demon territory for long. He asked himself what he should do in the next 12 hours when he was out of energy and was forcefully kicked out of the demon territory. Zhang Jie told himself that he should use the 12 hours to become stronger quickly so that he could match Huang Hanfei because he was currently no match for him. Zhang Jie received a notification asking him which floor he wanted to enter, and he chose floor 4. Amidst this, Zhang Jie wondered if the demon territory had disappeared and how he would fight monsters and become stronger if he couldn't leave the altar. While he was still trying to figure out his questions, Zhang Jie overheard some men talking. One man said the Demon Territory Management Bureau had said that the Death Territory would soon appear, so they should wait. Another man said he had been waiting for over 10 hours and asked when they would let them out. One of the men from the group asked the two men who were just talking about the Demon Territory if they knew what was going on. One of the men told him that they had said the Death Territory's boss needed to be killed before it would disappear, and he had also overheard a group of experts preparing to enter the Death Territory. Another man said that those experts would need an invitation letter to enter the Death Territory, or they would not be allowed to enter. He continued to say that only the boss dropped items, and the drop rate was very low, with only 1 in every 100 bosses dropping something, with a chance of 0.01%. He advised newbies like them to forget about it because the Death Territory had huge rewards, but it was too dangerous and they would surely die if they tried to go in. He said that even if someone gave him an invitation letter, he would refuse to take it. Zhang Jie received a notification telling him that he had received an invitation letter to enter the Death Territory. He was surprised to see the letter and was asking if he wanted to enter because it was opened for him. Zhang Jie thought to himself that he had already cleared floor 3 and couldn't go back because there was no reward he would get. And in the real world, Huang Hanfei was waiting to kill him, so he had no choice. Zhang Jie accepted the invitation letter and entered the Death Territory. He realized there were other people there and asked himself what was going on. He wondered why there were foreigners in the place he was in, as he thought demon territories of different countries were not linked. Suddenly, a hand touched Zhang Jie's shoulder from behind and mentioned the name Rakshasa. Zhang Jie turned and looked back, seeing Moon Shadow. She greeted him and told him that she had finally found him. Moon Shadow explained that she had been looking for him because he had saved her life, but she couldn't find him. She didn't expect to meet him in the demon territory. Moon Shadow's uncle asked her if Zhang Jie was the one who had helped her lure away the elite Dark Shadow Wolf. And Moon Shadow confirmed that it was indeed Zhang Jie who had helped her that day. Zhang Jie told them that they didn't need to thank him because he was just doing what he would do. Moon Shadow introduced her uncle as Sixth Uncle and her little brother as Zhang Jie. Sixth Uncle asked Zhang Jie how he dared to enter the Death Territory alone and complimented him for being brave. He warned Zhang Jie that the place was different from the Demon Territory, and not only were the monsters scarier, but there were also foreign adventurers who often attacked others over loot. He advised Zhang Jie not to travel alone, but to travel with them instead because it would be safer. Moon Shadow's little brother agreed with Sixth Uncle and called Zhang Jie the name Rakshasa, telling him that Sixth Uncle was an excellent rank and he would be safe traveling with them. Zhang Jie was surprised to hear that Sixth Uncle was an excellent rank and hoped he was very strong. Zhang Jie thought to himself that it was his first time coming to Death Territory, so it was really dangerous for him to travel alone. Zhang Jie shook hands with Sixth Uncle and told him that it was his first time visiting the Death Territory, so he would be glad to join them if they were willing to let him tag along. Sixth Uncle told Zhang Jie that he was not arrogant and had a nice personality. Moon Shadow thought to herself that she had been worried that Zhang Jie would refuse, which would have been difficult for her because she wouldn't have found a way to repay him. Zhang Jie joined the team and Sixth Uncle suggested that since Rakshasa had joined the team, it would be great for them to know each other's talents so that they could understand each other and work well during a fight, since they were teammates. Sixth Uncle showed his talent, followed by Moon Shadow's little brother and Moon Shadow, who reminded Zhang Jie that he had seen it already the last time they met. When it was Zhang Jie's turn, he thought to himself that soon enough everyone would know of his talent, so he might as well show his new team his talent. He revealed that his talent was Summon Technique. A Moon Shadow asked if the summoning beasts obeyed all his orders, to which Zhang Jie replied that they did. Sixth uncle ended the introduction so that they could keep going because others had entered the village. And if the boss was stolen, they would return empty-handed. As they rushed to get to the village, Zhang asked if the Death Territory's boss was more dangerous than the Demon Territories, and if they dropped better loot. Sixth uncle told them that the Death Territory was a soul dungeon, and would drop more soul orbs without attributes, high-rank equipment, rare items, etc. However, it was all more dangerous. Sixth uncle explained that he had brought both Moonshadow and Zhao Tian to let them gain more experience. As they drew near the village, they saw chaos and men fighting, and there was fire almost everywhere. Zhang asked what was going on, and sixth uncle replied that the men seemed to be possessed by something, causing them to behave that way. Sixth uncle told them that they would first go into the village to find the boss. They ran, and while they were running, sixth uncle told them that they should follow closely and not get separated. They kept running, and sixth uncle spoke, saying, "The village is a maze because each room looks the same." Then they heard growling sounds, so they stopped running and stood close to each other with their backs facing each other, looking around to see where the monsters would appear from. The beasts appeared from where they were coming from and where they were headed. Sixth uncle told them not to panic as he drew out his sword. He told them that he would be at the front and instructed that Moonshadow would be at the back, while Zhang and Zhao Tian would be in the middle. Then he told them that they should fight while they walked and not get scattered by the monsters. The monsters were closing in on them and lunged at them. Zhang used his hand to open a portal to summon the Goblin Warrior. A monster lunged at Zhang while he was concentrating on summoning the goblin. But before it could attack him, sixth uncle jumped in and slayed the monster's waist using his sword. Then someone yelled for sixth uncle to watch out, but it was too late because he was already attacked. He stood in shock, saying to no one in particular that someone had sneakily attacked him. Then the mysterious professor appeared in front of them, telling them that they had met again while walking slowly towards them, carrying his stuff, which had a magic orb on top. Sixth uncle looked at the mysterious professor and recognized him. He let his guard down. Suddenly, Shadow Moon yelled sixth uncle's name, telling him to watch out as an arrow was heading towards him. Then she turned towards the direction the arrow was coming from, drew out her sword, and swung the sword, blocking the arrow from causing any damage to anyone. She looked around where the arrow had come from and saw a night elf on the roof of a building holding a bow. Then Harrison appeared, and Zhang summoned the goblin again. The goblin ran towards Harrison with its shield and sword ready to attack. Since the goblin was shorter than Harrison, Harrison used his huge axe, and with one swift move, he slayed the goblin, killing it. Upon seeing that, Zhang spoke, saying, "His attack power is strong." Sixth uncle recognized the three people who had attacked them. He reminded them that the last time he left them off and never thought they would dare come and attack him. Sixth uncle called the three of them shameless. The mysterious professor told sixth uncle that he dared to bring 3 newbies to the Death Territory, so why should they let the chance pass them by? The mysterious professor asked sixth uncle that even if they win, so what if they're shameless? Sixth uncle continued to struggle in the paralysis state they had put him in. He thought to himself that if what was happening continued, then all of them would die. He also realized that the mysterious professor and his friends were planning on killing them, so he worried about the 2 youngsters from his family. Zhao Tian and Moonshadow called Uncle Sixth together at once. While sixth uncle was thinking about them, he continued to think in his mind that especially Willow Moonshadow, who was the hope of the family, must not die there. Sixth uncle attacked Harrison with his shock knockback talent skill and told Moonshadow, Zhao Tian, and Zhang to go. Moonshadow told the others that they were leaving, and Night Elf asked where they were running to. She said she would like to see where these guys would go as she stretched her bow packed with 3 arrows. As she let loose her arrows, the arrows kept following Zhao Tian and Zhang and Moonshadow. Zhao Tian told Moonshadow that the arrows kept on following them. Moonshadow told him to be careful because that was a talent skill. Moonshadow used her light blade slash talent skill to block the arrows, but one of the arrows passed past the blade and stabbed her. She removed the arrow and told Zhao Tian and Zhang that the mysterious professor, Harrison, and Night Elf were after their uncle, so they wouldn't come for them now. Zhao Tian asked Moonshadow what they should do now, and Moonshadow told him that they would have to find a place to hide for now and wait until the Death Territory's boss was killed, and that they could leave. While resting, Zhang saw something coming behind them, and he asked what it was. They realized it was a Death Butcher. Moonshadow said that they seemed to have encountered the boss. Zhao Tian complained that they were so unlucky because they had just escaped alive from the mysterious professor, Night Elf, and Harrison's attack, but ended up encountering the boss. Moonshadow asked what they should do because this time Sixth Uncle was not there, so the three of them didn't stand a chance against the Death Territory's boss because they couldn't win against it without Sixth Uncle. Zhang Jie told them that they shouldn't get nervous because the boss hadn't discovered them yet. Zhao Tian complained, asking why Moonshadow and Zhang Jie were asking what to do when they had the Death Butcher in front of them, and the foreigners who were trying to kill them were also behind them. He said that they were doomed this time around. Zhang Jie told them that they couldn't keep staying there waiting for death, and that they should kill the Death Butcher together. Night Elf said that the Sixth Uncle was lucky today after escaping their attack. Otherwise, she could have taken her revenge today. The mysterious professor told her that she shouldn't worry because when Sixth Uncle was escaping, he only had 10% of his HP, and if he had teleported to another place that was surrounded by monsters, he wouldn't survive. Night Elf said it was best for Sixth Uncle to get teleported to a place where the Death Territory's boss was and get killed by the boss. Harrison said he hoped so too and laughed. The mysterious professor told Harrison and Night Elf to quickly look in front of them. As they looked, they saw the Death Territory's boss, the Death Butcher. Night Elf recognized it and said it was the Death Butcher. Harrison said they were going to be rich because the Death Territory's boss was super valuable. Harrison told his teammates that they should attack right away before someone else discovered the Death Territory's boss. The mysterious professor said that they were so lucky to get to fight the boss this time around. Night Elf raised her bow and arrows and said S-Rank would be hers as she attacked the boss with her arrows. The team realized that their attacks on the boss were just passing through it. The mysterious professor thought the boss was immune to their attacks and questioned himself. He attacked the boss with his Thunder Fireball talent skill, hoping it wouldn't hit, but unfortunately he realized that it also passed through the boss. He wondered why they couldn't cause any damage to the boss. Harrison says it's so strange, and he has never encountered this type of boss before, and it doesn't even have a form. The mysterious professor wonders if maybe it is the boss's talent to turn into a transparent form every time it is attacked. On the other side, Zhao Tian tells Moonshadow and Zhang Jie to be quick, because his illusion can only last up to an hour. This means that the Death Territory's boss that mysterious professor, Night Elf, and Harrison are fighting is an illusion that Zhao Tian is using to distract them, since his talent skill is to create an illusion. Moonshadow asks Zhang Jie how he's planning to fight the Death Butcher. Zhang Jie tells her that they cannot charge recklessly, so they can only find out about the Death Butcher's abilities for now. Zhang Jie summons his beast to come out and tells them that it's their time to shine. Moonshadow is surprised to see that Zhang Jie can summon all the boss beasts from floors 1, 2, and 3. She asks Zhang Jie about it and tells him that she thought he could only summon the mobs. Zhang Jie tells his beast that time is tight and commands them to attack at once together. Zhang Jie and his beast devour Heavenly Frog, Goblin King, and Dark Shadow Wolf, cornered the Death Butcher. The Death Butcher called them a bunch of weaklings. He had one weapon in each arm and swung the sword to attack them. But Zhang Jie yelled, telling them to dodge. They all dodged the attack, and then the Dark Shadow Wolf was running towards the Death Butcher. The Death Butcher then said that he was feeling the death aura. He saw the wolf about to attack him, so he swung the weapon and attacked the wolf. The wolf fell to the ground. Zhang Jie looked at the wolf while thinking that the Death Territory's boss combat ability is as scary as he had expected. The Death Butcher swung his sword to the side, telling them that a bunch of ants like them could not harm him at all. Zhang, Shadow Moon, and Zhang's monsters were all facing the Death Butcher. Then Zhang told Shadow Moon that the Death Territory's boss combat ability is as scary as he had expected. Shadow Moon then replied, telling Zhang that his Dark Shadow Wolf was no match for the Death Butcher, so she will go and help him, otherwise it would die. Then Zhang Jie looked down at the poison spider and ordered it to use its webs. The poison spider shot its webs and trapped the Death Butcher, but the Death Butcher managed to free himself from the webs using his weapon. Then he started running in the opposite direction. Zhang wondered why the boss was running away and what he was trying to do. The Death Butcher then found some rotten meat, and he spoke, saying that he wanted to eat meat. Then he started eating the meat, and the more meat he ate, the faster he recovered. Shadow Moon gasped. Then Zhang clenched his fists once he realized that the Death Butcher could recover his HP by eating meat. After realizing that the Death Territory's boss can restore his HP by eating meat, Zhang Ze commands his beasts to quickly stop the boss. He tells them to make a long-range attack and focus fire. One of Zhang Ze's beasts, Heaven Frog, makes an attack on the boss. The boss is angry and tries to attack back, but Zhang Ze commands his poison spider to attack with its spider web, making sure that the Heaven Frog is not devoured. The boss keeps coming strong at them, but Moonshadow makes an attack on the boss with her light blade slash. One of Zhang Ze's beasts also makes a whirlwind slash attack on the boss from the back, causing more damage. Moonshadow encourages them to hang in there, saying that they can defeat the boss. Zhang Ze's beast managed to cause more damage to the boss, and Zhang Ze releases an arrow from a bow that lands on the boss's forehead and makes a critical hit. The boss falls and dies on the spot. Zhang Ze receives an S-rank weapon, which Moonshadow notes has an HP absorb effect. She says Zhang Ze is lucky because the weapon suits him, and many people have been in the demon territory for years and do not have an S-ranked weapon. Moonshadow receives mail from Rakshasa, Zhang Ze. Zhang Ze tells her that he has sent the weapon to her mail and she must not decline it, because they work together to kill the boss. Moonshadow thinks to herself that even though the weapon can help her in the Rank 2 Demon Territories exams, she believes that Zhang Ze's dealt the most damage to the boss and contributed the most. Mysterious Professor, Night Elf, and Harrison show up, and Mysterious Professor shouts at Zhang Ze, Moonshadow, and Zhao Tian, asking how they dare use an illusion to trick him and his teammates. Zhao Tian is startled after seeing them, and Harrison is angry, telling Mysterious Professor to stop wasting time talking with them. Harrison and his teammates move towards Zhao Tian, Zhang Ze, and Moonshadow, hoping to take their weapons when they kill them. Zhang Ze tells Moonshadow and Zhao Tian that he only has a few beasts left and they cannot stand a chance against Harrison and his team. He suggests that they leave the Death Territory, and Zhao Tian agrees, saying they should go since they have already defeated the boss. Moonshadow tells them to leave first and says that Mysterious Professor, Night Elf, and Harrison killed the sixth uncle, so she must take revenge. After Moonshadow tells Zhang Ze and Zhao Tian to go, as she wants to avenge sixth uncle's death, Zhao Tian says he doesn't care anymore because he does not want to die, so he's making the first leave. Zhang Ze hesitates to leave and talks to himself that Willow Moonshadow is so stubborn. He asks himself if he can really let her stay behind alone. Moonshadow looks at Zhang Ze and realizes he's still around. She asks him why he hasn't left already. Moonshadow tells Zhang Ze that it's her personal grudge, and he is not related to it, so he must go. Zhang Ze tells Moonshadow that even though it is not his personal grudge, and that he is not related to the cause, he cannot leave and watch the three foreigners kill her. Zhang Ze summons his beast to come out and show Mysterious Professor, Night Elf, and Zhao Tian its true power. Harrison and Night Elf are caught by surprise after seeing that the beast that Zhang Ze has summoned is the Death Territory's boss. Harrison and Night Elf run towards the Death Territory's boss to attack it, but upon attempting the attack, the Death Territory's boss disappears, and they ask each other why the Death Butcher has disappeared. Moonshadow and Zhang Ze find themselves back at the entrance of Floor 4, and they meet Sixth Uncle. With excitement and surprise, Moonshadow calls Sixth Uncle. Sixth Uncle compliments Zhang Ze and Moonshadow, telling them they have done great. Sixth Uncle holds Zhang Ze by the shoulder and tells him that he's a different kid, and he has nicely done the task. He tells him that he's exactly as expected, and says his eyes weren't wrong to have spotted him. Zhang Ze thanks Sixth Uncle for the praise. Sixth Uncle looks at Zhao Tian and tells him that he's worthless, unlike Rakshasa or Zhang Ze. Sixth uncle turns to Zhang Zhe and tells him that their family, the Lu family, is also a great family. He continues to say that Moonshadow does not have a boyfriend in the meantime, so they should contact each other more often. Moonshadow screams at sixth uncle with a little discomfort feeling. Sixth uncle laughs and tells her that he has stopped. Zhang Zhe tells sixth uncle that he has something he wants to ask him. Sixth uncle tells him to ask. Zhang Zhe asks sixth how he can defeat a rank 1 demon territory expert. Zhang Zhe talks to himself that they will talk about the other thing in the future, because right now, in the real world, he has a murderer waiting for him. Sixth uncle is surprised to hear Zhang Zhe asking about how one can defeat a rank 1 demon territory expert. Sixth uncle asks Zhang Zhe if he has encountered a problem and tells him that it's fine. He can talk to him about it, and he will help him settle the problem. Zhang Zhe shows his gratitude by thanking sixth uncle for assuring him that he could help him in settling the problem. But he still tells sixth uncle that he thinks he should handle the problem alone. Zhang Zhe talks to himself that the hardest thing to repay is a favor, so he will think of a way to handle it on his own. He tells himself that he has 8 non-attribute high-rank magic soul orbs, and if he absorbs them, then his combat ability will greatly increase. Zhao Tian tells Zhang Zhe that a demon territory expert is stronger than they think, so he should not underestimate them because he might get killed. Moonshadow tries to comment on the issue, but stammers and fails to speak. Instead, she just mentions Zhang Ze's name as Rakshasa and stops. Sixth uncle tells Zhang that if he wants to fight a demon territory expert, other than the fact that his combat ability needs to be strong enough, he may also need to be aware of the person's strength and weakness. Zhang Zhe tells sixth uncle that he roughly understands, even if it's the same rank demon territory, because the difference in 4 attributes, it will also be a huge gap. Zhang Zhe checks his attributes and talks to himself that among his 4 attributes, the highest is agility, and it's reached 15. So if he keeps investing more, his movement speed and attack speed will be much faster than others. And in combat, he also has the advantage and has a higher chance of winning. Zhang Zhe worries that the only thing he does not know is the advantage of Huang Hanfei. Xiao Tian calls Moonshadow and sixth uncle, and as they look at him giving him their attention, he tells them that their time at the demon territory will be up soon, so they should be returning. A nerdy-looking guy with glasses raised his hand, telling sixth uncle and sister Moonshadow that their time in demon territory would be up soon. Then if nothing else, we will take our leave, Moonshadow said. Then a notification bar appeared, telling Zhang Zhe that Willow Shadow Moon had sent him a friend request. He accepted it, and then Shadow Moon told Zhang to be careful. He replied telling her that he would, and bid them goodbye. After they left, he pressed a button on the notification bar, and a lot of magic soul orbs surrounded him. He absorbed all 26 orbs, which added to his agility. When he finished absorbing the magic soul orbs, he told himself to get ready to fight a life and death fight. Then he teleported himself to his room. He wondered if there was no one in the house and asked himself where the other guy went. Then he realized that his little sister, Zhao Feng, might be in danger, so he ran out of the room screaming Zhao Feng's name. He entered the living room and saw Huan Fei sitting on the couch with an apple and a knife in his hand, using it to eat the apple. Zhao Feng called her brother with tears in her eyes. Huan Fei told Zhang Zhe that he came earlier than expected. He also told him not to be in a rush, and that he should sit down first so that they could have a chat. Zhang Zhe told Huan Fei to let his little sister go first, and then they would settle their differences between them. Huan Fei replied telling him that it would be impossible for him to let her go, because they had not seen his face. Since the police were looking for him, they might end up informing them about him. Zhang Zhe angrily asked Huan Fei what he wanted to do. Huan Fei pointed the knife at Zhao Feng's neck. She cried, begging for him to let them go, saying they wouldn't call the police. Then Huan responded to Zhang Ze's question, telling him that he wanted to sell their organs on the black market, and that they were very important assets to him, so he wouldn't harm them. Then he told Zhang Zhe to open the door so they could leave. Meanwhile, a bounty hunter was excited that she had found the person she was looking for and was going to get 1.5 million. Huan walked to the car, still holding Zhao Feng, and Zhang Zhe followed behind them. Zhang asked Huan where he was taking them, but he told him to stop questioning him and get in the car. Zhang Zhe went closer to his sister and told her that she should not be afraid because he would protect her. Huan told them to stop wasting time and quickly get in the car. Then something came out of nowhere and hit Huan on his arm. He still held Zhao Feng tighter, screaming for the person who threw the thing to come out before he killed Zhao Feng. The bounty hunter, Shen Meng, came out of her hiding place, saying she didn't expect it to fall. But if he wanted to kill Zhao Feng, he should quickly do it because it would make it easier for her to kill him, she said, walking towards them with a knife in her hand, twirling it. Zhang Zhe looked at Shen Meng, mouth agape, wondering if she wasn't the delivery girl who had just come. Huang Fei asked Shen Meng if she was a bounty hunter, and he told her that she came quickly. He also asked her if she thought she could catch him. The bounty hunter replied, telling Huan not to judge her by her looks. She said while holding her pocket knives ready to throw them at him. She threw the knives at him, and Huan Fei laughed as he saw the knives getting towards him. Then he told her that he had a hostage as a shield. Zhang Zhe used his speed and pushed his little sister out of the way. Shen Meng gasped as she saw how fast Zhang Zhe moved. Zhang shielded his little sister and turned to look at Shen Meng, telling her that she almost harmed his little sister. She told Zhang that she didn't do it on purpose, and he should be blaming his little sister for standing in front of the criminal. Huan Fei laughed and told them that he originally did not want to kill anyone, but it seemed impossible. Seeing that the villain was out of the way, Shen Meng took off running towards Huan Fei. But before she could attack him, Huan Fei removed his glasses and used his mind-controlling powers to hypnotize her. Shen Meng stopped moving. Huan Fei laughed at her, telling her that she couldn't escape his mind control, and that he would send her to hell first before she captured him. Upon seeing this, Zhang Zhe took it as a chance to kill Huan Fei. He lunged at him. Huan Fei had his pistol in his hand, getting ready to shoot Shen Meng. Then he saw Zhang lunging at him. Zhang Zhe punched Huan in the stomach, sending him flying to the ground. Huan held his stomach with one hand and the pistol with the other. Still on the ground, he pointed it at Zhang Zhe, telling him not to get cocky. Zhang threw another punch, making Huan drop his gun to the ground. Zhang stood beside Huan, breathing heavily, telling himself how lucky he was because if Huan had taken out his pistol from the start, he didn't know what would have happened. Zhao Feng walked towards Zhang, asking him if he was all right. He replied, saying that he was fine. Then they all looked at Shen Meng. Zhao Feng asked Zhang what had happened to her. Zhang explained to her that she had been hypnotized by the criminal and that she only cares about money. She almost harmed her. Zhao Feng then asked if they should help her, but Zhang told her that she deserved it and they should not help her. Then she asked him to grab a pen with the best ink that would not be able to wash off easily. 10 minutes later, the police officers arrived at the scene. Zhang's teacher, Mr. Lu Wei, arrived and told Zhang that he was brave. Then he asked him if he hadn't sent him a message telling him to stay still, and that the police and he were on their way. He also told him that Huan Fei had already killed 7 people. Zhao grabbed her brother's hand, and Zhang Zhe scratched the back of his head with his other hand, apologizing to Mr. Lu Wei, saying he didn't have time to look at his phone. One of the police officers walked up to the teacher, telling him to stop criticizing Zhang Zhe, because he had become the great hero and contributor of Tianfeng City. The cop also told them that they had been trying to capture the wanted criminal for 2 years, but he was cunning and always escaped. Now that his students had caught him, he should be proud. Mr. Lu Wei told the cop that he was proud of him, but he was also worried about their safety. Then the teacher wondered how Zhang managed to defeat him since he was a rank 1 demon territory expert. Zhang stammered, not wanting to reveal his true combat ability. So he told them that he didn't do it alone. He pointed at Shen Wang, telling them that she also helped him and she had been hypnotized by Huan Fei. The cop recognized the bounty hunter as Shen Mengdi, the bounty hunter who was always doing dangerous things for money. He told them that she was a veteran and also a rank 1 demon territory expert, and she had captured many criminals but also created trouble for the police. The cop went close to Shen, looked at her face, and asked them why her face was painted. Zhao Feng replied, telling him that when they saw her, she was already like that. Then he told them that he would take the criminal and Sheng Mengdi to the police station. He told Zhang Zhe to go to the police station to get the 1.5 million reward and split it with Meng, since he said they worked together to capture the criminal. When Zhao and Zhang heard the amount of money, they were happy because if they added up all the money, it would be enough for the kidney fees. At 8 p.m., after everything, they went to bed. Zhang was lying on his bed thinking that it was time to go back to Death Territory since it had been cleared. He should be able to roam freely on floor 4. He pressed his wristwatch and it teleported him to the Demon Territory floor 4. He found people partying and was walking around thinking that the place had returned to normal. He could enter and leave freely. After the last fight, the team had fewer summoned beasts. But the Death Butcher, Goblin King, and Devour Heavenly Frog, it shouldn't be a problem. He took out his book to see the monsters on floor 4. He saw the Orc, Birdman, and Boss Minotaur were on floor 4. But he saw that Orc and Birdman's information wasn't detailed, but seemed to have high damage. He walked into the barren forest, and moments later the Orcs came out of the bushes. Zhangzhe summoned his beasts, Goblin King and Death Butcher. When the Orcs lunged at them, Zhang ordered Goblin King to stop them. Goblin King blocked them, then he ordered Death Butcher to kill the Orcs while he stood at the side watching the fight. Then, all of a sudden, Birdman appeared behind him, trying to attack him. But he dodged it, saying Birdman's speed was so fast. Then he pulled out his Blood Fiend longbow, saying he would let Birdman have a taste of his S-Rank weapon. He shot the bow at Birdman, but he missed. Then he summoned Devour Heaven Frog and ordered the frog to hit Birdman with its fire. The frog spat fire at Birdman, and Birdman tried to escape. But the frog spat on it, and it fell to the ground. He took the magic soul orbs from Birdman, telling himself that he was lucky that the Orc and Birdman didn't have high defenses. Otherwise, it would have been troublesome. Looking at the notification bar, he saw that he finally had a full team of summoned beast lists. Then he had to go to the floor 4's boss. While he was going further into the forest, he heard a person screaming for help. "Save me! Someone is trying to kill me," the person said. Then he saw a girl running from a man chasing her, carrying a weapon. He told the girl to stop so that he could teach her a lesson.